You see the convergence of both electoral politics in Israel, electoral politics, I guess, in this country as well, and also a major sort of war and peace issues. And I'm talking about the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu, apparently has been in negotiations with Speaker Boehner of the House to visit and give an address to a joint session of Congress. Now, this is not so bizarre, although Netanyahu has had an inordinate amount of visits of joint sessions. But, we can talk about those reasons. But what's really bizarre about it is, A, that Boehner offered this invitation without consulting with the White House. I mean, this is a major foreign policy issue and question. And simultaneously, the Israeli government never told the White House that they had accepted and negotiated this. So we had a situation where just about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago now almost, you had the ambassador to the United States, the Israeli ambassador to the United States, sitting down with John Kerry for a multiple-hour meeting and neglecting to tell him that his head of government, Bibi Netanyahu, was in negotiations and nearly completing negotiations, because it was announced a day later, that he would be addressing a joint session of Congress. And I have to say, the politics of this are fascinating, both in Israel and in this country. But in this country, as you know, Pat, the president and the administration had negotiated a deal with Iran back in late 2013 that basically did three different things. It allowed for more investigation as to Iran's nuclear program, more oversight of it. It also allowed for significant setbacks to their nuclear program, and it gave more time for both parties to negotiate an extended final settlement. Now, this is one of the greatest fears of the neocons in this country, and frankly, members of the Democratic Party who have a large, significant right-wing Jewish and Israeli supportive supporters who give large donations. So just last week, you had Robert Menendez, Democrat in the Senate from New Jersey, coming out after the State of the Union and claiming that President Obama's, positive reports on the negotiations with Iran sound like they were drafted in Tehran. I mean, this is really shocking.
First, here, the suspect parts are, first of all, we know Netanyahu is here to start a war. I mean, that's the drill down. That's what it's about. We know the GOP does better when it is when they're in a war environment. That's when they get elected. That's when they gain most of their power, when they're in a war environment. Netanyahu knew why he was coming here. I mean, there was no question. He was coming here to chum up a war with Iran.
Right, because he's looking for people to vote to impose sanctions on Iran at a very sensitive time in these negotiations. So rather than let President Obama continue on with his negotiations, you have these right-wingers in the House and the Senate who, these war hawks, who want to impose more sanctions on Iran and essentially scuttle the talks.
I don't know that this has worked for him, Sam. I think that this was such an outrageous move that this chicken little Netanyahu, who's a scaremonger, he came here about Iraq in 2002, if you remember. His contribution was that, there's Saddam has missiles, Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. He was the chicken little they brought in then, and now he's back. Netanyahu has always been there talking about our need to escalate against places like Iran and Iraq. But the good news is the backlash is not going all that well for Netanyahu. First of all, you know that he's a war pimp. I know that he's a war pimp. But the average person, they hear Netanyahu, they think he has this really honorable background. He doesn't. The guy is just an absolute war pimp.
Well,
and so, of course, he's a perfect fit for the Republicans. Let's bring him in and be our talking head.
I'll tell you what's fascinating, Pap, is, and now we should also say that Boehner's not just working on a policy level. People have to remember that Sheldon Adelson, one of the reasons why he dumped tens of millions of dollars into the race, his two favorite issues are busting unions and also a very war hawk-like ultra-conservative perspective on Israel.
Yeah.
And when he pumped millions of dollars into the race in 2012, that was Newt Gingrich was carrying both of those banners. And
I
so
wouldn't be. I'll tell you, Sam. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes right to Sheldon Adelson as getting Netanyahu.
I wouldn't doubt it at all. And here's the interesting thing: you have Democrats criticizing Boehner and almost ignoring Netanyahu in this because they are attacking the fact that this is really unprecedented to invite a leader, a head of a state, to a joint session of Congress and not even inform the White House that you're contemplating it.
I mean, it sounds like treason. I mean, it has a kind of a treasonous sound about it, doesn't it? I mean.
Well, here's the amazing. I agree with you, and the amazing thing is that you can watch Fox now, and they're attacking Bibi Netanyahu for doing something that they think is going to really hinder both Netanyahu at home and make him look bad in this country. But of course, they won't say anything about Boehner. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, this is something that I think there's been such a big pushback on this that I'd be shocked or I should say, I wouldn't be shocked if there was some type of reversal. If we hear like, we've had a scheduling conflict, or Bibi can't make it at this point.
What they're doing right now is
this, in many respects, has had really the opposite effect, I think, of anybody who was Netanyahu looking for more bump in his domestic elections in Israel, which come from both this sense that he's welcomed in America, because I think that's more important in Israel than the Israelis let on. And
when
as you
Fox
say,
News doesn't welcome him, that's a problem. And I think,
Indeed.
Sam, as they keep building this case and talking about if Democrats will do what they typically don't do, and that is, they usually get ADD about this time and don't pursue it. But when they pursue it, they're going to find out it's private money bringing Netanyahu in. It's going to be like Sheldon Adelson, people like that.